Board Boy Rob here with an editor's note, just letting you know my track did not record for the first half of this podcast. We were able to up the gain and so you can hear me, but there's going to be some static and I apologize for that. The second half of the podcast is just fine. I would also just like to blame Board Boy Tim for not being there to correct me. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks.
It's the late 19th century and America is booming. New train companies compete to satisfy the needs of a growing population. Merchants, officials, food, and goods need to travel from one place to another. An intricate network of train lines has appeared. Now here's where it gets serious. Thaddeus Reeves was one of the young entrepreneurs dreaming of connecting the entire nation and succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. Reeves Rails quickly established lucrative train routes from the Atlantic to the Mississippi, and the country's future is bright. But greedy rail barons are looking at Thaddeus's growing rail empire and thinking about how they can take it away. And one last thing to say, as the years have rolled along, Reeves Rails has continued to grow and thrive. Your new train company is ready to take part in this remarkable industry. Possibility and fortune shimmer off the paint of your newly purchased steam engines, and this new express network should make all the difference. Satisfied, you open the newspaper and read the headlines from out west. Pretty serious for a Ticket to Ride game.
Today on the Board Boys.
Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Board Boys Podcast, Season 14, Episode 4. Ticket to Ride, Legends of the West, Legacy version tonight on the docket. I'm your Board Boy, train conductor Rob.
I'm your Board Boy, psychic but got way less locomotives than Rob, Jake.
And this is your boy, Chattanooga Choo Choo, a.k.a. Boinker McDoinker, a.k.a. Chattanooga Choo Choo.
Well, tonight we're doing something a little different. This might be the first Legacy game we've covered in total. I'd have to go back and check. Probably.
For like a full episode, I would say so.
It probably is.
Yeah, so we all individually actually played this game separately, but we played it on a finished board tonight together, and we'll come back with the main review with our thoughts on the game, and we will be segmenting it into kind of an overall overview, and then we're going to hit some heavy spoilers in case you don't care about that and you want to listen. Maybe you're not going to play the game and you just want to know what it's all about.
I would just like to point out right now that this is not a super spoily Legacy game. Like it pretty much you still build trains in every game of it.
Also, knowing what's coming probably doesn't help people a ton more so than not knowing what's coming in regards to how the different areas change. So I don't know how much that matters either.
I mean, let's just talk about our Legacy experience, I guess, at the table. I'd say that out of the group, I'm probably the most Legacy person.
Yeah, I would guess I've done 10 Legacy campaigns in different games.
Whoa. I think Campbell likes to overestimate the number of things.
Okay. Ticket to Ride,
Yep.
Clank.
Yep.
What was the Stegmeyer one? Charterstone. Queensdale.
Yep.
I did
King's Dilemma.
I did Pandemic Season 2.
Uh-huh.
I did
My City.
I've done My City. I've done My City a lot of times on BGA. But I also had a physical copy of it, which made like halfway through. Those are the ones I can think of that I've finished. I've started several others.
More than I would have thought. So
Yeah.
for me,
I feel like I'm missing a couple too.
For me, it's that. Plus, I've done Betrayal Legacy. I've done Pandemic
Risk.
Season 1. I know you said 2. I've also done Season 0. I've done Risk Legacy, which that actually has 2 games left. So Risk Legacy is the one Legacy game I have yet to finish.
It's pretty impressive that list is only one for you, for one you haven't finished yet.
Yeah.
You did that pirate one, right?
Oh, and Seafall, which everyone, like, a lot of people hated. I really liked.
But that was like the first big Legacy banger, wasn't it? Like other than Risk Legacy.
Seafall was the first Legacy game that wasn't a game like a previous game.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
It was an OG original design, and it was Legacy. And that game had one of the wildest, like some of the wildest stuff in it, like Legacy-wise. Like there's spoilers, there is a blacklight in it, and like a
Whoa.
map and stuff, and like hidden symbol, like it's crazy. Like the overall game loop was fine, but all the stuff was, I don't know.
Why didn't people like it?
Because it was really clunky, and like you had to have the rules were tough. And you really had to use the forums a lot. And I think they got to a point in the forums where if you bought I would recommend people that wanted to do it, buy the game, go look at this one forum post for kind of like a FAQ, and then you're good to go. And then you could buy the game for like $15, $20, totally worth it at that price.
Cam, you've also played Gloomhaven.
That's what I'm saying. I've also played Gloomhaven. I'm looking at all the Legacy games right now, so I'm up to 8. And I've played a game of Risk Legacy, so that puts me at 9 technically.
Yeah, you played it.
I played a couple of them.
We're trying to like finish our campaign out, and he's jumped in one of ours.
Yep.
I am not the biggest of Legacy guys, so I think the only one prior to Ticket to Ride in my city that I had completed was Queensdale, and that was with all of you. So I've group ones. Joe Budden and I have done about a third of Pandemic Legacy Season 1. That has been probably the last time we touched that was 7 or so years ago. So that's been a minute. Solo-wise, I've done a couple. So Legacy of You is a Legacy campaign game that I love. And then Hadrian's Wall has their solo campaign that I really, really enjoy as well. So solo stuff I've done a little bit better with. But Legacy is not usually my jam. Although I am playing My Island as well. And
I need to get My Island.
We're not finished with My Island yet. So that's the other one we haven't finished. But we're pretty much through that. Kind of just looking through some of these other ones. I played both Zombie Kids games.
Okay, have played both of those as well.
I played a lot of Zombie Kids with you, too.
There you go.
I played like probably 5 games of Zombie Kids with you.
You have Zombie Kids and then Evolution. Upcoming, I have just gotten Divinus from Lucky Duck, which is app-based as well. So I'm kind of excited to get that one to the table.
Did you find
that game
your
looks
for
cool.
it? I will play. I just am going to be gone for a while.
I think I might play it first with my neighbors and my wife. And I have a recharge pack for it, so it's replayable.
If it's tight, I'll play the second one with you.
So we'll see. It just depends. Right now, getting people together, our Tuesday night game group seems fairly disjointed at this point for the people that I want to play.
I will be back as soon as my daughter is just a little bit older. And my wife
like
is
18?
And my wife is driving. Well, the big issue right now is my wife just feels like when I go somewhere for a long time, like what if something happens, and it really bothers her. Yeah, which I think is fair. But like my wife is from Peru, and she has a driver's license, but she has not driven at all since she moved to the United States. And so I think she just wants to feel a little bit more independent before I'm out for like. So that's on our spring agenda, is to like feel comfortable driving to and from work.
And then Queen's Dilemma, which has been majorly delayed a few times. That one, I think we're all eagerly anticipating. At least the people that King's Dilemma did.
Yeah, I can't wait to play that.
And that goes up to 6 now instead of 5.
Sheesh.
One person harder to get everybody together.
Cam, you have also played Sleeping Gods. I don't know how much of it, but you have played that
I
as
have.
well.
I have played some of that. Yeah. So, but I don't count anything I've only played like one game of, so I'm not counting. Risk Legacy either.
I own Sleeping Gods, and I've always wanted to like play it more, and I just have never done it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Legacy is that compared to like campaign, right? Like, do you actually write on things or rip things up or like? Does it actually?
No, you can fully replay everything with like there's a thing where you track stuff, but it gives you like your save points, quote unquote. But no, I guess I use those words interchangeably, to be honest.
There's a big gray area with those, I think.
Well, to me, like I would consider Gloomhaven to be a legacy, even though I guess you put stickers on the board. But like Gloomhaven to me is more of a legacy because of all of the tracking. And like characters that like really do flesh out and like unlock new things. Whereas
some legacy stuff though is literally one and done. Like King's Dilemma got recycled. Done with that. Pandemic Legacy 1, 2, and 0 all got recycled. Like there's nothing you could do with it after the fact. And even the ones that now have a playable game, like I haven't touched Charterstone. I played Charterstone twice through because I reset it because there was a recharge pack.
Yeah, I played Charterstone twice also.
I played it twice with 2 different groups, and like I haven't touched it since then. I don't know that I really will.
I would never play Charterstone again because by the end of Charterstone, you're just building the worst buildings that you skipped for like game after game just to get the points for them and the build like move the game along and overbuilding the actual valuable buildings.
Or like My Island has a eternal mode that you can keep playing, and like that doesn't really interest me to keep playing that one either. My thing about legacy games, I love the discovery. I like the reveal. I like what's new, what's next. And I guess we'll talk more about the Ticket to Ride when we get to it. This is probably the first legacy game I've played post-campaign.
Oh, see, here's the thing. I want to play Clank Legacy post-campaign, but I ruined my Clank Legacy by starting it and not completing it. And also trying to paint the minis, which I did a really bad job at.
Oh yeah, I would play Clank Legacy post-campaign as well, but I haven't. Mainly because Clank Catacombs fired all the other Clanks for me.
I don't really like Clank Catacombs as much as I really like Legacy because of like the differing starter decks, which I like. You get to start with like an artifact and like that like pocket watch or whatever that does like a different thing, and that made it so much more fun for me that you have like a little bit of a goal from the beginning.
Rob, you have also played Jurassic Park Isle of Newbar.
Oh yeah, that wasn't on this list. I have that, and that you could also play. And I think we've actually played that one more time since. And the final game of that is actually vastly different than the whole rest of the campaign, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. Well, why don't we talk about a couple of games we've been playing, and then we'll get into the main review. I know Campbell's been itching to talk about MLEM.
Oh, I was just kind of joking around, but I do really like MLEM. So MLEM, Space Agency, I think is the full name of the game.
It's Reiner Knizia, isn't it?
I think it's Reiner, yeah, Reiner Knizia. Is it called MLEM Space Agency? So I had to look up what MLEM means. Do you guys know what MLEM means?
Isn't like the noise the cat
It's
makes?
the noise of the cat, like when he like
Hairball?
licks his nose or whatever and goes like MLEM. You know, like that's what a MLEM is. Which, okay, Reddit or whoever came up with that. But MLEM Space Agency is a push your luck game with it's got like a fun like cat theme. They're like cats in space. But that has nothing to do at all with the game. It could be people themed. It could just be a reskin of Celestia. It's kind of like Celestia. I was talking to these guys about, except for that it's like way less complex, and the scoring is way less complex. But basically, what you're doing is everybody gets on a rocket ship, and like players take turns being the captain. So you'll like place your dudes in order on the ship. The captain places first, then you like go down the row, and you're placing one of your 8 catstronauts, and they all have their own like special ability. So some of them like do like score certain ways better. Some of them like give the rocket a little bit extra juice to like continue farther, and one of them even does something kind of naughty, like when you leave the ship for the other players. But basically, whoever's the captain is just going to roll a handful of dice and keep moving further and further up, like towards deep space. And when the dice are rolled and they're spent, like most of the time, the dice will leave like the dice pool, and they'll get smaller and smaller and smaller. Although if you're able to move forward, you never go below 1 die. So like you can't run out of dice if the dice the final dice you roll like allows you to move. And so basically it just gets harder and harder and harder to progress as you go up. And along the way you can land on planets which score like area control. So whoever has the most cats on the planet gets the most points for it. You'll score moons, which get you like decreasing amount of points in the moon area. So like whoever goes on the moon first will get like 4 points. Then the next moon will be worth like 3 points, yada yada. And so you can always just choose to get off after every roll, or if the rocket crashes, then everybody who's still on the rocket just puts their cat back in their catstronaut bag. You never actually lose them if they fail. But basically the game ends when somebody places all their cats, or when the game has gone like a certain amount of failures. And just super simple, push your luck, like stand-up dice rolling game where you either are staying onto the rocket for the glory or getting off to like bank some guaranteed points. I think it's super fun. I love push your luck stuff, and party games. So this one's a no-brainer for me to buy. I asked Dungeons Gate to pick me up a copy, and when they have it, I'll be MLEMing with probably like my extended family. I think this is a very good like kid and grown-ups who don't play a lot of games wait.
How long of a game is it?
I think that if you played with like 5 people, in real life the game's like an hour. or
Okay.
less. On BGA, it's really long because everybody has to decide whether or not they're getting off after every roll, and because certain times when you get off, like whoever gets off first is going to get like more points. You can't do it simultaneously either, where everybody else chooses yes or no. So you have to do that. Like they have to choose an order. So I should. I just did a Porky Pig there. I should play live, like a live game to see how long it actually takes, but I don't think it would take that long. I'm really like, this is one of those games I think is going to be way better IRL.
Oh,
There,
it could be.
I don't get the BGA taint like you guys do. Like there's lots of games that the only benefit for me playing live is I would rather play a game in person than on BGA. Like, but like that's like the only thing. There's a couple games I actually like better on BGA, specifically like Dice Hospital, because I don't have to do all the resetting. I don't think I'd ever play Dice Theme Park. We've been playing a game of that recently. I don't think I'd ever play that live.
Yeah, I've been playing Turing Machine a lot on BGA.
It's slick.
Like, I would like a real copy of it, but I think it might be really good on BGA. You don't got to mess with any of this stuff. I don't even know how it works in real life.
Well, I think you just like
Fake life on BGA, it works real nice.
I don't know how it works in real life either. They made a cardboard computer, baby.
Because there's a ton of those little punch cards that you just kind of slide in there, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So this is a perfect family game night. You'd play some MLEM, and then you'd play some. Oh my gosh, the rat.
First rat?
Not gay. Yeah, you play first.
Yeah, first rat.
And then you could see like the cats wanted to go after the rats up in.
Yeah. Then you could play Doggone to the Moon. I bet there's a board game about dog astronaut.
Find it.
Dog
Can you
astronaut.
name one game that has a BGA that gave you a BGA taint?
No,
Okay.
I love BGA.
No, I mean it's not that I don't love BGA, but there's not a single game that your impression was negatively, semi-permanently affected by it.
There are some games where like I don't think the UI is really nice. Like Anachrony, I don't play much on BGA, even though I love Anachrony. I just think the UI is kind of lame. Hey, Space Dogs 2002.
The one I've heard the most of is probably Challengers. How much better Challengers?
Oh, Challengers is better IRL too. The alternate name of Space Dogs is Dog Tales in Outer Space. It was published by two different game companies, so it is a real game. BVG, Best Value Games, and Games to Remember. So, Games to Remember, Top Games, Zoofari, Dog's Life, Great Big Hunt, Funky Monkeys, Dose, Twice the Fun. Best Value Games is well known for Space Dogs, Zoo Pals, and Prehistoric Dogs. So,
All the heavy bangers.
yeah. Mark Rice is the designer.
It's basically like you just read the BGG Top 100 right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mark Rice has 17 games. He has the Great Bug Hunt, Funky Monkeys, Dose Twice the Fun. So I think this is just his own publisher. So maybe it is self-published.
Okay, I just got one I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to talk about Karvi, which is designed by Torgeir Tiong.
Did you say this is designed by Torgi Tiong?
It's like Torgeir. You should look up the name of it and give me your expert linguist pronunciation.
Okay, what's the name of the game?
It is Karvi, Karvi. The artist is Ingram Shell, and the publisher is Hans im Glück. Anyways, it is a Viking-themed game, and essentially it has the mechanism that I feel like we praise every single week on this or every episode of this podcast, which we call the patchwork mechanism of where you're the furthest back, you have your next turn, you go. It's dice placement, and there's like a round outline around the table that have different actions, and then those actions have costs, and those costs represent the pips that are on your dice. So it's beer is what the quantity of that is. But if you have 2 pips on your die and you land on a 2-pip action, now that die has 0 pips and it can't take any actions except ones that are 0. And so there are a couple places where you can reload that beer. There are provisions which allow your boats to move across the board. And as your boats are moving, you're collecting both barbarian groups that you're going to fight, like these little banners, and then also trade banners where you're handing in certain resources to be able to go through. You do 3 laps around the board, and then at the end of that, you count your points. It is there's definitely a lot of different things to do, and the end game scoring is pretty robust. It definitely took longer than I felt like maybe it should have when we started. It also is a game where, despite the mechanisms being really cool, and as you play it, I think you could be really strategic about getting your dice spaced apart and to give actions to the one that is lagging behind of the 2 dice that you have. But it's a game that you definitely do most of the things that you want. So I don't know longevity-wise how much I would really like it, but there were a lot of really interesting things to it. The movement of your boat is always a free action, which is kind of cool. You just have to have the provisions to be able to move it. And then you are, again, if you have the tiles for fighting, when you land on like the fight action, that is where you can flip those over, which unlocks better benefits for you on an income phase. Then there are endgame scoring conditions that are located in a couple different places. It was really interesting. I did really enjoy the way that the turns were played and strategically thinking about how long before I go again and that push and pull of if I don't rush to get this action now, somebody else might sneak in there to get it. It was definitely interesting. So if you are somebody who likes Viking themed and you like dice placement, I think it could definitely be something that interests you. So that is Karvi. Cam, how do you pronounce his name?
I'm just going to go on the record and say that I think Jake is probably right. Torgir Tiong, I think is, if you're talking like a Norwegian. So I was wondering if he was a dude who was like half Norwegian, half Chinese. But the Tiong is apparently a village in Norway, so I wonder if his family founded that. So yeah, Rob, you probably have a few games you want to talk about, right? Right, Hami?
I want to talk about a couple of games, one of which I know Jake could also talk about. So I'm going to start with that one. It is Neuroriders by Miguel Suarez Olivares, and the artist is Gianfranco Giordano, and is by Detestable Games. Jake picked this up in like a 3-pack of games on Kickstarter that was kind of like, I don't know, they were like 30 to 60 minute kind of quick hitters.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to let you explain kind of what you do in that, because I only played it the one time.
Okay, in Neuroriders, so essentially what happens is you have a central tile, and it has 2 rainbow-colored doors that match with everything, and then you have a hand of one tile, and then you're going to draw from tiles that are sitting in a bank, which don't replenish until the end of the round. So you pick a tile up, and then you decide if you want to play one card from your hand, which gives you there's 3 that once you use them they're done. They basically do a rule breaking thing that can kind of allow you to maximize your turn a little bit better. And then you lay a tile down, and based on that tile it will have 2 colors on it, and that is the 2 robots that will move as long as they are within 1 or 2 spaces of where you placed it. And so what happens then is the robots will move, and they have to move through, there are doors that will connect them. If the color doors are the same, then that will create 1 point for that color. And if the color doors are the same color as that robot, it'll provide 2 points for that. And so then you have a central board where all of those colors are tracking the amount of points that they have. So at the beginning of the game, everybody gets 1 scoring card, and it is going to give you 2 points for each space of one color, 1 point for each space of a different color, and minus 1 point for each space of a third color. And so collectively, you are raising the point totals for these colors while trying to think about how to maximize the amount of points you're getting and mitigate how negative the amount of negative points you're taking. The coolest thing about this game that I think just really adds an interesting flair to it is the game will end when you run out of tiles or if everything's crystallized. But the condition that I feel like has happened most frequently is one of the scores gets to 20, and at that point it will flip back to 10. So you can actually force up the score the thing that you don't want to score high to make it go backwards to score that way. It is brain burny for a really short and really simple game for picking up a tile and laying that tile, but the where you place things and how you move things, especially with the cards that allow you to move whole tiles or people, there is a lot to think about. I was going to wait to talk about this maybe a little bit later once I had played it a few more times, but I am super impressed with it, and it is a game that I am very eager to keep playing.
Yeah, I liked it. I'd like to try it again. It was interesting, and I think you could super think about all the stuff going on in that, but you also could just kind of be chill and just kind of play and whatever. So, I think a wide range of people could play it and get different things out of it and still have fun with it.
Definitely.
But yeah, I'm not a real big spatial person, but I did enjoy this one, and I did enjoy trying to push over one of the score things, and then I failed, and then I just jacked up the score for somebody else. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and always looking for those little filler type games that you can play in half an hour.
Yeah, and it's got enough meat to it though that I think it's something that it will really satisfy that itch more so than even just something we're going to play before we play something that's going to do that. So I highly recommend. I think Cam would like it a lot.
Oh yeah, I would.
I'm gonna throw in a quick expansion that I picked up this week called Seven Wonders Architects Metals, and I think we've talked about Seven Wonders Architects. It's an easier version of Seven Wonders. The Metals expansion adds 2 new wonders you can build. And
Whoa.
Basically these metals that are achievements that you're racing the person to your left or right for, and then if you get it first, you score 4 more points. And then there's some extra green technology tiles, and that's kind of it. Super easy. It actually, with a little bit of lid lift, it all fits in the big box, the main box, and it's cool. It's fairly inexpensive, about $20, and the metals really give an extra little wrinkle to the game, I guess you could say, to shoot for. Instead of just trying to, either build your wonder or fight in the wars or do the technology. This week's demo of the week at Dungeons Gate was Star Wars Unlimited, Spark of Rebellion, and this isn't a board game, but I'm going to throw it out here because it is going to be Fantasy Flight's new collectible card game, and I love Star Wars. I don't know that I'm going to dip into the collector part of this, but if you like collectible card games and you like Star Wars, I would say this is a pretty decent one. If you've played the Star Wars deck building game, it's kind of similar in the fact that you are basically, everyone has a leader and a base, and you're just trying to deal 30 damage to the other player's base. Well, at least in the starter decks, that's how many hit points that the base had. And essentially on your turn, you do one of a couple things. You either play a card on the table, like a character or a vehicle or whatever, and there's 2 different, you either play them on the ground or in space, depending on what type of unit they are. There's also...
Like a ground unit would go on the ground and a space unit would go on the
there's
space.
also events
See?
and things,
I'm already know how to play.
Instant actions you can... I'm going to use a lot of maybe magic terminology because I don't know what the actual terminology is.
Yeah, have we talked to our lawyer about whether or not you're allowed to do that?
Actually, the tapping has come off of copyright.
So now you can call it tapping again.
You can.
Oh, thank you.
The symbol, I think, is still... You can't use the symbol, but you can use the terminology if you'd like. So, it has what a lot of games have been doing recently, where you don't actually have mana or actual resources. On your turn, you can just turn one card face down, and that is a resource. And so that's a cool decision you can make in the game. And then when you choose to attack, you can choose to attack the base, or you can choose to attack a specific unit. And damage persists between turns. If you played any kind of collectible card game, you're going to pick this one up pretty quick. The thing that took me the longest to get over is you don't do like everything you can on your turn, then it's the other player's turn. You basically go back and forth doing one action each in what they call a phase. And then when you're done or you want to not do anything else, you can pass and take the initiative token, and then you get to go first when the next phase happens. Then you just keep going back and forth. I would say that this is easier than Magic as far as card games go. I think tonight was going to be their pre-release event, and it's going to come out in stores next week. So,
tell me,
be able to pick up Star Wars Unlimited.
Tell me, because it sounds fun, but I don't know much about the IP. What's Star Wars about?
Get out of here.
No, I just was thinking back to when we played that Red Rising game or whatever it was, and I was like, I don't care about any of these characters.
I didn't either, but then afterwards I read the books, and I really liked Red Rising.
Red Rising. Hey, do you have other games you want to talk about? Because there's something I want to... I've been thinking...
The Star Wars game is about filling your deck with heroes, villains, and more from the Star Wars galaxy.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. There's something I have a surprise for before we get to the overview of Ticket to Ride. Once you're done talking about games.
I just have one more.
Perfect.
But I just wanted to mention that I really like the art style on the Star Wars Unlimited cards too.
Star Wars Unlimited. I'm gonna look at the art while you talk about this next thing, and then I'll I'll give you my 2 cents.
This one is called Mercurial. It is from David Go, and the publisher's Corax Games, Good Games Publishing, a bunch of publishers it looks like. Mercurial, I can't even say this word. Mercurial is, how can I say this? It is a game that is kind of like Century or Century Golem Edition on steroids. It's an engine builder. You're basically playing cards for their effects, and you can play it either for their main effect or a secondary effect. You're also taking spells, and when you take spells, you have to pay either mana or these white crystals, or you have to pay your dice. And essentially, once you're out of stuff to be able to buy, you basically use all your spells you bought to cast. And you're either casting, it's either this blue symbol or this red symbol. I can't remember. Blue is basically like restorative, and red is destruction. And you're trying to claim, in Century Golem, you're claiming a golem. This one, you're doing like impressive feats or something like that, or heroic actions. And you can either pay the red cost or the blue cost of the card, and then you take the card. And as soon as somebody has 3 cards, that triggers the end of the game. You add up all your points, and that's kind of it.
Cool.
This one was not for me. I would definitely play it again. There were just way too many symbols going on. And this game would be a real fun game at an hour play length. And I think, depending on who you're playing it with, it could go real long over that. I mean, we were kind of learning the game from the box as we were going, but I can't foresee myself really wanting to play it again. I just, there's too much math involved and figuring out what thing I can do to make the spells to get the cards. I'd rather just play like Century Golem, where the turns are like super quick. Like, this is one of... Have you ever played a card game like this, and then you could get up from the table between your turns?
Yeah.
It still wasn't your turn?
Like tonight when we were playing Ticket to Ride. We smoked Ticket to Ride. We were pros. What's it like to play a game with me where I know what I'm doing?
It's perfect. If you like the kind of game, though, I mean, I could see why some people are going to like this game, and if you play it a bunch, it's probably fine. My first play of it, though, just left a bad taste in my mouth.
I actually do want to talk about one more game. Why you brought that up is because Splendor Duel came to BGA, and I'm like mostly done with like 5 games of it right now. Everybody's talking about how they think it's like the bomb, and for the life of me, I like, maybe I just I'm not seasoned in it yet, and maybe everybody else I'm playing with isn't, but like our pace is so slow that we're both just like, me and every other player are just picking up cards for free pretty much every turn, and we still have like half of the scoring condition to do. So I'm wondering if the game gets a lot tighter when you understand it and just none of us understand it. But I don't know. I'd love to hear everybody else's thoughts on whether, like, Splendor Duel. For those who have played Splendor but not Splendor Duel, you have like a grid of chips to pick up instead of like a bank of them, and so you pick up like 3 in a row. And there's 5 colors, and then there's pearls, which can be picked up, and they're like their own thing. And then there's the gold nuggets, which like block picking up. But you don't refill the board until somebody like opts to refill it. And on your turn, you can either like take chips or you can like buy Splendor cards. And the Splendor like tableau building works the same. But basically, you win when you do one of 3 things. That's either get 20 points or get 10 points in cards of a single color, or get like 6 crown symbols or 10 crown symbols or something like that. And I just feel like the whole game is a slow build towards people doing that, where you have a million turns where you just grab cards for free, which I always feel like the thing I like about Splendor is if you build that engine that just grabs cards for free, somebody already like whooped you to the like actually scoring a thing. So I'd like to play it more and get like more nasty with it. And because I think it would be more fun than Splendor if it was actually really tight and you could crutch somebody before they built a good engine.
Yeah, I remember. I really don't remember much about it. I owned it for a brief time, and I didn't really. It was fine, but ultimately not something I kept. I remember liking the scrolls that came in it because they were cool looking. I don't remember what they did, but I remember you could do interesting things with them.
Yeah, I do want to. I want to resurrect a dead segment tonight.
Who are you beefing with?
Is exactly right. We're doing Beef Watch, baby. What's the crux of your beef? Beef Watch. I'm not beefing with any specific person. I'm beefing with 4 different people today. Minorly, and just the concept in general. It really got my goat today. So often people ruin my day just a little bit by like taking a left turn into the right lane of a road or taking a right turn into the left lane of a road. Does that drive you guys nuts? Like when you turn right, you turn into the closest lane. When you turn left, you turn into the closest lane. To me, this is like a foul on the level of not returning a shopping cart. It's like, just turn your wheel a little bit tighter, dude.
What do you mean by not returning a shop? Just like leaving it in the parking lot?
Like leaving your shopping cart in the parking lot, not putting it in the corral. You know what I'm saying?
That's worse.
No, I don't. I do not think. I actually think turning into a wide lane in a car is worse because A, it's dangerous if somebody else is turning at the same time.
What if nobody else is there?
Still, but B, what it's saying is like, I care so very little about following the rules of the road that I'm just gonna do a little bit less turning. I can't be bothered to turn my wheel a little tighter because it's more comfortable for me to have the wheel out loose.
Campbell, I will say I'm probably that guy sometimes, but usually just when nobody else is around.
If there's not another car in sight, I don't care.
Generally, how often in Ankeny are there never any cars in sight?
Never.
If I know I'm not going to hit somebody or there's not somebody close or I'm not going to cut somebody off and I need to be in that lane eventually, I'm just doing it.
It's a zoomer move, okay? Like, I don't know if you guys feel this way. I feel like drivers have gotten so much worse in the last 5 years. Is that COVID? Is COVID the like seriously, I drive up and down 235 every day. My wife from Peru, they're used to not wearing seatbelts in the back seat, and she's always like, "Hey, I'm just going to not have this on." And I'll be like, "You got to put that thing on." And she's like, "Well, you're not going to crash us on." I'm like, I don't think I am, but like I think that guy might hit me. Like every day I have to dodge somebody.
My mom always said, "Watch out for the other. You got to watch out for the other driver."
Yeah, stick your hand out too far and it might go home with another car. You guys never heard that? I heard that many times when I was a kid. A dude lost a head, I think, one time from like sticking his head out the window and another car came by. That's my mom told me that.
The moral lesson I always heard in that regard is when you would pout and you have your bottom lip out, that a bird's going to come by and poop on it.
One too, yeah.
That's such a weird thing to say when you think about it.
Your face is going to freeze like that.
Yeah.
So you guys don't think that the wide lane turning is a big deal? I think it's.
I'm not saying it's unsafe. It's unsafe.
No, it's not just unsafe. To me, it says the exact same thing as like, I'm the main character of this road. Like, I actually don't care about the aftermath, like the consequences to other drivers. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, did you have to slow down because I turned into the wide lane where I wasn't supposed to turn? I don't care. I'm the main character of this road. That's like what people.
See, like I would never do that. But let's say there's nobody coming at you from the other direction turning. You're the only one turning right currently.
Well, don't you think it builds character to go into the correct lane then at that point? Like, isn't righteousness valuable for its own sake?
Into the closer lane when no one's there, and then immediately signaling to get over like 1 second later.
It's proper driving etiquette.
What makes me way more angry driving is when people decide to skip the traffic jam and just drive up in the lane that they can't turn into and then put their blinker on and expect to be let over, which is
I do that.
Traffic happens.
No, I'm kidding.
That
I do that.
That infuriates me.
The thing that Midwest drivers don't do and don't get is like the zipper merge. Like, if everyone knew how to do that and would do it properly, you'd have way less congestion on things instead of giving people dirty looks for passing this. Like, why are we all backed up in the right lane for a mile?
Yeah.
We should be all coming up there and zippering.
Well, Midwestern drivers also do not get.
Stubborn.
They also don't get that your personal there's no personal space on the road. proper driving etiquette also is you 100% of the time let somebody merge when they want to merge. You 100% of the time expect somebody to let you merge when you want to merge. I don't care if a dude is like we're neck and neck. If somebody zips up a little bit and puts on their blinker, I slow down so they can get in. 100% of the time, but I expect people to do that for me. And like Iowa driver, I grew up in Iowa. Iowa drivers like are like, no, this is my lane, and I'm out of speed up, so you can't do this, even though I don't want to go faster than you. And it's just like I think it's just because in the Midwest we have all this space, so we're used to personal space, and we feel like subconsciously like offended if somebody wants to get in front of us. Which is weird because we're supposed to be polite, right? And I think Iowans are polite and nice, but it turns into a new beast on the road. This is my personal space. But don't merge in front of me if you didn't put your blinker on. Don't do that. That's dangerous.
Tonight on the podcast, we played Ticket to Ride, Legends of the West.
A game about vehicle travel.
Less turning signals.
Yeah, you don't have to put on turning signals when you're on the train, right? I mean, there's probably some times where there's signals. Train signals. Twain twacks.
So, Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends...
I got him!
You wascally wabbit.
I fudded him.
Ticket to the Ride Legacy. Woo!
I'm not cutting this out, Rob, so don't...
Okay, buddy. Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West came out in 2023. In this, you are building train lines across the United States in a 12-game campaign. It re-implements Ticket to Ride. It's 2 to 5 players, best at 4, it says. 20 to 90-minute playing time. We'll see about that. Ages 10 plus. Weight 2.54 out of 5. Alternate names, Campbell. Adventureros El Train Legacy. Legendadas. Oh my god. Leyendas de Oeste. That's probably...
Doesn't Ticket to Ride also, like, isn't the Belgian name or something like that really goofy? It's like, what's the, maybe 13 more names. Hang on. Yeah, Zugum Zug.
Zugum Zug Legacy Legende de Westerns. Yes. Designer Rob Davio, Matt Leacock, and Alan R. Moon. Artiste is Cyril Dejean and Julien Deval. And the publisher is Days of Wonder. It is currently 8.8.
I think Zugum Zug is the German name, by the way. So I said Belgian, which is kind of a French language.
It currently has a rank of 399 overall, and family, it's rated 39.
This is unequivocally going to be a top 100 game, don't you think? Probably soon. Yeah.
Well, we're doing an episode on it, so it's going to get up
that
there.
Board Boys bump.
That Board Boys bump.
Wait for that bump. So, in Ticket to Ride Legacy, I'm going to go on the assumption that most people know about Ticket to Ride if you're listening to a board game podcast. In the Legacy version, you start off just on the eastern side of the country, and the board is puzzle pieces. And instead of scoring points for your routes, you're gaining money during the game, and the most money at the end of the game wins. Throughout the games, you'll uncover more parts of the map and different ways to basically, on the back of the rule book, there's 12 steps you're supposed to do when you claim a route. So you will learn all kinds of new things as you go. And at the beginning, there's only 2. So you start the game with 2 things you do to check a route, and you unlock 10 more as the game progresses, right? The other part of the game is pretty much the same. On your turn, you either draw 2 train cards or 1 locomotive card. You can claim a route by spending the cards per every train you need on the board, and then you can draw tickets, and then the tickets, you're going to get money for them at the end of the game, or lose money for them depending if you complete them or not. At the end of the game, money you've accumulated during the game, there's a bonus for how many trains you had left, so if you get like all your trains played out, you get like $16. Whereas if you have 8 to 10 left, you get like $2. And then you count the total ticket value, and then you add it all up, and you get a winner. And then in typical Legacy style, the winner usually gets to do something, the loser gets to do something, maybe everybody gets to do something. Just depends.
Yeah.
Why don't we get to the table, play Ticket to Ride, and come on back with our thoughts.
Yeah.
And we're back. Campbell, you were the last of the Ticket to Ride Legacy party, I think.
Well, I was the last. I don't know if I was the last to it. I was the last to finish.
Yeah, no, I think you started last too.
I don't know about that. When did you guys start? Isn't it nice that these guys keep stats?
It is. My first play was on November 12th.
Mine was on November 25th.
Okay, I did start I think early December. So yes, I was the last to it.
And then we finished on December 23rd.
And we finished on February 28th. or maybe 29th. So actually, I think it took me less time to play this than Jake, because you finished on the 8th and started on November 12th.
Yep.
And I don't know what day I started, but it was like mid-December.
I traveled 3 of the 4 weeks of January, so that made it hard to play.
I didn't. We just...
Hey, can we all just say major success? We all finished.
Hey,
We all did finish.
Finished this legacy.
And we all played at different player counts, too, so we can talk about that.
And the hilarious thing about that is BGG recommends 4 players, and none of us played at 4 players.
I know.
Campbell played at 2.
Yeah.
I played at 3.
3, and I played at 5.
Okay, so here's... when I saw there was a Ticket to Ride Legacy coming out, I got real jazzed because... with a baby coming and like lots of home time, and my wife likes Ticket to Ride, I was like, man, I don't know if this is going to be good at 2, but this is a great opportunity to just do something fun as a little family while we have a little young baby, and then hopefully get my wife zazzed on like more complex concepts in board gaming. If that's a byproduct of doing this, then great. If not, like, no worries. Like, I get plenty of chances to play games. I'm not trying to convert her. I will say, though, if I can get some more complex game concepts going in my own house, I'm down. I would like that. From the beginning, I thought it was going to be just about perfect for my wife, who likes Ticket to Ride but had never even heard of a Legacy game. And spoiler free, it was just about perfect for an introduction to Legacy games. However, again, spoiler free, I think enough stuff kind of piled up near the final games where there were a couple of plays that she got a little weeded with, like the different objectives all hitting at the same time.
Well, to be fair, there are 12 things you have to check possibly.
Exactly.
Play them out. So there can be a lot going on.
So I guess similar to Cam for me, as soon as I saw this was a thing that was going to be coming out, I was super excited. My mom, one of her favorite games is Ticket to Ride, and she likes to play games just about as much as I do. So I knew right away I was going to buy it, and I thought we were just going to play the 2 of us, but we ended up playing 3 players, which was great. So my overall, I guess similar to Cam, my expectations and I guess aspirations were really matched. So it was a really positive experience and has got me thinking about what else I could bring legacy-wise to my mom to play with her that way.
All right, so my initial thoughts on Ticket to Ride. This one, I mean, I love Legacy. I love Ticket to Ride was one of the first games I kind of played when I was getting back into it. So this was kind of a no-brainer, and I knew this was one that I could play with kind of the family and the neighbors. So Bo, Amy, and then our 2 neighbors, Ty and Josh, we got together and we played this with 5 players, and it worked really well. And I think for the most part, Bo really liked it. He enjoyed the Legacy aspect. I guess we can kind of jump into the pros here.
So doing our best to keep it spoiler-free.
So these are the spoiler-free pros.
I think that being a Legacy game, this is just an ideal starting point for somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience with Legacy. And I know that word turns people off in some cases. And if you haven't played one and you're just kind of worried about the uptake and what happens between games, I think that this one is just so clear in regards to what's going to happen. The rules, even though they add things and, you eventually could have, up to 12 things to check. It's never in a way that I feel like is inaccessible for gamers. And so I think that if you have any interest in playing a game that, evolves with you the way Legacy games do, I think this is a perfect starting point for that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's one you can just jump into, especially if you've played the game before. You just need to kind of pick out the little differences. One of the things that I really enjoyed was the company routes, and a big thing when you're teaching Ticket to Ride to somebody is that their player color doesn't really matter with the cards they're getting. But in this one, it does matter because you get money for building your own colored routes every time you do that. So there's a benefit to you actually building your own route, I guess, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really fun. Just I had like an extra goal the whole game of how to get more points. Ticket to Ride Legacy in general is fun because it gives you a bunch of ways to get points that normally aren't the way to get points. So it like always keeps you like trying to do like new interesting things with the way you play. And the whole thing, like the through line for the whole thing is I'm a lot more active with my card play instead of just sitting back and holding cards, which again is I think like the optimal way to play the original Ticket to Ride, which I love. But I like if I had a gripe about the original Ticket to Ride, it's like it's less tactical, you know? Like always finding ways to push the game faster is stuff I like.
I also think it's a wonderful way to start a game like this with how snappy the first couple games of this are, because we mentioned before that your board is much smaller, you have less trains that you're working with, and I think that there are ways throughout the campaign that try to expedite the amount of time that it takes to keep it as close as possible. It is definitely something you're going to experience. The games are going to get a little bit longer as you go through them, and I think into some cases that probably depends on your player count, but I just think that they were really smart about the scaling of this game and how much they introduce with each individual game.
So we're going to keep on the spoiler-free pros for a minute?
I mean, I don't know that I have much more. I'm trying to think of cons. I think we should actually.
Would it be weird if we gave our scores?
No, I think we should.
okay.
We should finish the review and then talk about spoilers.
I think
Okay.
because if they're listening to this and they don't want the spoilers, they still probably want to know what we rated it,
Yeah.
and then we can hit the spoilers and thereafter that.
Yeah, and to be honest, this was like one of my top games from last year. I don't think I have a con at all, at least a non-spoiler con. So
I honestly, you are the best to speak to this because you played it at 5 players. Did the time increase by the latter games sully your thoughts at all on how you were feeling about this game? Because at 3 players, and I'm guessing at 2 players, yes, it added a little bit, but my games were never real long. And I remember at one point you talked about one of your games, most of the way through was intense long.
That was because one night we're like, oh, let's play 2, and they were each like 2 hours long. And now, to be fair, we're playing with a 9-year-old, and keeping him on task sometimes was difficult. But yeah, at 5 players, the games do get longer. Every game you have to play out more trains, and the board does get bigger. Now that being said, that they do some things in the later games that kind of help with that we'll talk about later. But they definitely, like our first game went. I'm gonna say we might have even had a game close to 2.5 hours. So the games probably went from anywhere from 30 minutes to 2.5 hours towards the end.
I would say mine probably ranged from 20 minutes to 90 minutes by the time it was all said and done. Cam, what do you think about for you in 2-player?
I think our last 5 games took 90 minutes. But, we were sitting enjoying just, hanging out with each other and not playing like super aggressively. But our first games, were short. I think we played 3 games the first night. And then after that, after the third game, it was like, okay, there's plenty going on now. And then they took an hour, and then the last 3 or so games took, I think, 90 minutes each.
I think I got 2 potential cons that are not spoilers. They're not huge things though. I just think that there's something that may matter if you want to take make the investment into purchasing this. And one is that at least one of the areas that you adds a take that-y element to the game, and I know there's some of that already in Ticket to Ride in regards to where you build and potentially cutting people off, but that is off-putting for some gamers, and I think that it probably matters to know that.
Yeah. What's interesting is we basically just ignored that whole thing.
We did in my group too because everybody was so on board with we don't like that anymore.
Well, I had a component that made it a moot point for me. In 2 players, and so I just didn't want to hit my wife too hard with it because that element of the game ended up sticking around for pretty much all the rest of the games. So
yeah. I mean that exists. So that's something I want to say. And then again, just in the fact that again we've mentioned that up to 12 things happen in the city. It can become easy to forget little things that you need to think about between rounds. Potentially pertaining to the color of a route that you built. I think that the table as a whole can manage that and make sure that it isn't something, but it can be easy to have missed something, and then you're in that situation of, well, do we try to go back and think about what we missed, or do we just move forward? Which moving forward is always what we chose. But
yeah, I agree with that. I think with 5 people at the table, we didn't really miss much. Because
Yeah.
in general, like, there's not a lot of thinking on your own turn, so you're kind of paying attention to everybody's turn. And I guess a pro is Ticket to Ride is a fairly snappy turn game. I mean, you pick one of 3 things and you do it. Like, you might have to take a minute because you got to go look at your tickets quick and make sure things are going on.
And definitely nothing changed in the legacy to that. It's still, everything's snappy. Like, your turns
Yeah.
are still quick. Just potentially the routes add a little bit of extra. I think with 3 players, I just took the role, potentially annoying the 2 people who I played with, of every time there was something that happened, I was like, and grab a card and take money, and then eventually they would be like, I know. But I think that it probably matters that you have people that do that, just to make sure you don't miss some of those steps. And again, I mentioned earlier that I still think this is the perfect gateway legacy game for things, but there are a few things you need to track as the game moves forward.
Oh yeah, we had to do that in ours too, and it was mostly me being the gamer at the table, just making sure people didn't miss stuff. But everybody definitely had a hand in helping with that. And even Bo, like the 9-year-old grasped when he was paying attention, he knew all the rules, and we're like, he'd be like I forgot something sometimes, and he'd be like, Dad, take that. And I'm like, oh, thanks.
Oh, one other thing I don't think is very spoilery to say that I think is interesting about this game is there's 5 player colors that you can have in this game because it goes up to 5 players. And so this game with all this different legacy things didn't just use the gray neutral routes to achieve interesting things. It also uses the white routes because nobody can play as white to do interesting things as well.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Story-wise.
Yeah, story wise and event wise, and
Yeah, the white
Oh.
train baron.
also
was-
not spoilery. There's an event deck which is really cool.
Yes, we missed that.
Yeah, and there's employees, which I guess.
Oh yeah, we missed that too.
Are
When
there?
did you start with those? The second game?
I think so. I wouldn't even call it a spoiler. I think it happens.
I don't think so either.
In game 2, but basically there's employees and there's events. So event cards will come up, intermittently, and can really change stretches of the game, or can hit you with like some windfalls or like bad situations that you have to deal with. I could see in tighter games events being frustrating for a player who's doing well and then like loses to a crummy event. But
I mean, that happened in our game tonight. 2 of you were affected. You had more heavily than anybody else.
yeah,
by
but
one,
like
so.
I'm a guy who like that doesn't bug me. That's part of the game,
Mm-hmm.
But like that's the thing. But I think overall most of the events are fun.
And I think also just the idea, again, I think this is pretty safe to say, but there are strategy adjustments when you know what events exist in the deck that can dictate how you take your turns. And I think that's interesting, and a whole nother wrinkle that Ticket to Ride, without the legacy component, doesn't have.
Yeah, and like games I play a lot, like I learn event decks, and be like, oh, hey, this hasn't happened yet. Let's watch out for that. And the event deck that you end up with is not that big, like 20 cards or something like that. So the other thing is employees. So everybody gets a special ability every game, and that's really fun too. And they're super easy to understand special abilities. Some of them are like obviously geared towards like fancier players, and some of them are just like straight up like get a few extra cards.
And generally, always, whatever the new thing that's being added with the new area, there's typically a few employees that relate to that specifically. And I think that's a fun thing too. So as you're adding new elements, you can potentially lean even more heavy into those things to get the maximum amount you could get from it.
They also added ports, which figure heavily in events, and so that's cool too. There's like they'll show port towns, and something I didn't notice until the very end of the legacy is that any ticket that has a port town on it, the name of the town is written in blue.
That
Oh,
is not something that I realized.
I didn't recognize that either.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
The more you know, Campbell.
Yeah.
Any other generic cons that we have for this experience?
I have one con I want to talk about really quick. I kind of stumbled over it in the intro, and I was looking at like, what do I hate about this sentence? But on the back of the box for this gigantic release, This sentence, Thaddeus Reeves was one of the young entrepreneurs dreaming of connecting the entire nation and succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. That's a bad division. Thaddeus Reeves was and succeeded. Like, it should say, Thaddeus Reeves was one of the young entrepreneurs dreaming of connecting the entire nation who succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. Because, like, you can be like, Thaddeus Reeves was one of the young entrepreneurs dreaming of connecting and was successful in his goal. You know what I mean? But
This is a quick plug again. Any game designers that are not in the United States, Cam will read your rules for you and your blurbs, and we'll do it for free.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know if it's technically bad, like, grammar, but the flow is messed up because of, like, the way you would structure the sentence. Like, if you want to use two different verbs, like, these don't really agree, and the second one is contingent upon the first, which is why I don't think you should do something like that. Because generally when you have two different verbs in a sentence like that, you're talking about two different things, you know, and this is like one complete thought. Anyway, that's
A completely
I don't like
unrelated game con.
yeah. Hey, conned out, dude. Rob Davio should have caught that. He's been in the mix since Trivial Pursuit Genus 5.
All right, so what is... Oh, I guess we got to talk about our scale for rankings.
Yeah, so on the Board Boys podcast, our final thoughts section, we have a 3 Boeing rating scale. This might be my 4 Boeing game, guys.
Really?
Might be. It's good.
Let's prepare to hear a 4 from Rob. Okay, so Rob, we're gonna wait with bated breath. So Jake and I are gonna go first. So
for sure, we got to maximize.
Rob,
this,
do you want to do? Are we moving into season 4 where we talk about like what the 3 Boeing and what the 1 Boeing game would be?
Yeah, so I think a 3 Boeing game of Ticket to Ride Legacy is...
No spoilers.
Man, I don't know. I think you...
That vault is thick.
Yeah. Yeah, the vault. Your box is heavy at the end of the Legacy campaign.
Yeah, you obviously just win all 12 games of the campaign.
And then somebody else has a lot of endgame scoring, and you're like, oh no. But then when it comes out, you actually have 700 more points than them.
Or in Rob's case, 1 more point.
Yeah,
One
I
less
think
point.
The 3 Boeing is...
1 less point.
I was like enthusiastically happy for the person that won our campaign and beat me by a point because I thought that was awesome. So I think
That is awesome.
I think that is when we scored 1,300 and some total points throughout the campaign, and we were 1 point away. That's a 3 Boeing. The 1 Boeing is you only played 1 game of it, and then you lit the box on fire and forgot about it. Who would do that?
There was
Yeah, who
one
would do
game
that?
I played where my final score was 17 because I needed to connect 1 middle area to get all of my routes to be done, and I didn't do it, and I lost so many
Yeah,
points
I
to
had.
the
I think I
bounce.
had 1 game where I really bombed it too.
That was a 0 point game of Ticket to Ride Legacy.
So Cam, why don't you go first with your final thoughts?
All right, so here's what's up. I love Ticket to Ride, and my wife loves Ticket to Ride. We had an awesome time doing this. Legacy experience on its own, solid 3 Boeings. Couldn't recommend this more as an experience for a group of people who like Ticket to Ride, or a group of people who would like to try a Legacy game, but want something in like the mid 2s. Definitely one of the best legacy experiences I've ever had. Now, it was by far the least intense. So if your idea of a legacy game is to like constantly be altering the board and make decisions that spider out, that other people like wouldn't have in their game, not the one. But just for like this is kind of in the same zone as like My City, where it's just like it's just perfect for what it is. I've only played the post game once tonight, but I really love the tempo and the aspects of the game they kept. I think work perfectly together. I didn't think I was going to probably want to use it too much, but now I really think I will, and so I'm going to give that a 3 as well, for a Ticket to Ride board, which I think is because there's lots of Ticket to Rides. This would be one of the ones I want to play. So, And then Ticket to Ride in general as a franchise is a 3 for me too. I think it's the best casual game. So 3s all around.
So for me, I like Cam. I'm also a big Ticket to Ride fan, and one of the things that I don't think we've said, and maybe we should make sure we're clear on, people who don't enjoy Ticket to Ride, I don't think there's anything in this that it's going to make you like Ticket to Ride if you don't like it as it is. So I wouldn't necessarily say if you are somebody who views Ticket to Ride the same way I view Catan, I don't think this is for you.
I will interject that I didn't like Clank before I played Clank Legacy, and Clank Legacy made me not just a Clank Legacy fan, but a Clank fan.
I feel like that is the exception, not the rule. But I wouldn't tell somebody who doesn't like Ticket to Ride to play Ticket to Ride Legacy. But I also just really enjoy Ticket to Ride, despite the fact that I tend to like heavier games.
Oh, spoiler free. Players can jump in and out too.
Yeah, but I mean that's obviously not the ideal.
Yeah, it's not. But
outcome.
But if it happens, they figured it out.
So Ticket to Ride has always been a game that I've really enjoyed. It just fits a lot of the things that I like in a pretty light package. So I agree with Cam. I can't think of a casual game that I like more than Ticket to Ride. And I thoroughly enjoyed this legacy component to it. And so I don't have really anything negative to say either. And it's definitely a 3 for me as well. I thought that going into playing the game afterwards that I just really wasn't going to have any interest in that. And I had a ton of fun tonight. I completely agree with what Cam said previously about the things that they kept make a ton of sense and really add a different flavor to Ticket to Ride than exists before that. So I would say, now granted, my total Ticket to Ride playing package is less than I would assume Cam's and Rob's. But Ticket to Ride Europe was probably my favorite before this. And I think I would definitely choose this game over Europe to play if I was going to play a Ticket to Ride game now. So I think it holds longevity in that regard, and I think it's wonderful. So I also cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah, I think Ticket to Ride Legacy for me is a 3. For all the reasons you guys have said, it is the one that I'll probably pull off the shelf the most. I don't pull Ticket to Ride off the shelf a ton anyway. My previous favorite, and maybe still my favorite, I really like the Pennsylvania and UK map pack. It has stocks on one side, and it has like a tech tree on the other side, which I think is very cool and very different than the other ways to play Ticket to Ride. So if you haven't tried those, check them out. I don't know that if you don't like Ticket to Ride, you might like this. There's always a chance, especially if you've never played any of the different maps that have additional things too. So maybe if you want a little meatier experience, you're definitely going to get it from the Legacy version, and you're going to get it from the different map packs too. I mean, they all add different twists and turns. I mean, nothing over the top or crazy, but if you're a Legacy fan, I would say if you're a Legacy fan and you're not a Ticket to Ride fan, still maybe give it a shot. If you're not a Legacy fan, maybe pass on this altogether. I don't know. It's hard to say. Some people just don't like Legacy games at all.
But I think if you're curious about Legacy and you haven't done it before and you like Ticket to Ride, or at least think Ticket to Ride is good enough, I do think this is a good entry point.
Yeah, I think it is too. And I think this is one that I think a lot of people's problems with Legacy games are they think they're done with them. And I think this is one that, out of all of them that I've ever played, this is one that I'll definitely get off the shelf and play again. So.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's hit the spoiler section now. Cam, hit us with that sweet, sweet spoiler music.
If you don't want to know what happens in the box, then turn us off.
Yes, turn us off.
For a few minutes.
For 4 minutes.
Cam,
9 minutes.
Cam, you hit that. We'll hit those timestamps in the podcast. So
that was my laziest Board Boy song ever.
When you can see when you can jump back in and listen to the bumper dump guys. But, all right, spoilers. My number one thing after game one, you get a sweet, sweet little punch.
You get a hole punch.
One hole punch, a hole puncher.
Yeah.
Just like the guy walking down the train punching tickets.
It is such a gratifying feeling punching through that thick card as you do it. It's great.
Yeah, so what do we use it for in the game? We use that hole puncher to punch
routes,
and
tickets. and then employees, because some of them have 1 or 2 times,
and some event cards, and some other cards.
You're right.
So it's basically a timer to only keep some cards in the game for a certain amount of time, and then once they're all punched at the end of the game, you'll shoot them out of there.
One
You
of the
get rid
things I
them.
thought was thoughtful about events that got punched was a lot of times stuff would only get punched if it affected somebody.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I thought was cool.
I mean, it was kind of a bummer that those events would come out and then nothing went. If it didn't affect anybody, then that would be the whole event. But I don't know. I know we've talked about this a lot already, but there is an event that makes you shuffle all of the events back into the deck, and like that card sucks.
Yeah.
like it.
It made you not see a lot of
Yeah,
events.
and then you couldn't get rid of it because it goes back in the
Yeah,
deck.
you could never get rid of it because. So again, the person who gets last is able to remove an event from the discard pile, and it just. Man, we could have gotten through so much more of that event deck if that card wouldn't have existed. I really think it came up in 11 of my 12 games.
Oh, it came up in all of ours, I'm sure, multiple times even.
Well, I
There's
guess,
some
yeah,
games
when
where
you're
we shuffled
throwing
it twice.
250 trains down on the board, you're going to go through that deck like 5 times.
Yeah, the
In the
five-player
beginning,
game.
I don't feel like 5-player game probably, but in the beginning, I feel like it was probably a third of the way through the game before we shuffled the deck.
Yeah, well, I would say that in our first 4 games, we probably didn't shuffle the deck at all.
Yeah.
We're just playing 2-player. But then, like, I don't think we ever shuffled the deck more than once, except for maybe in the final game, since we're only playing 2-player, you know.
I would say 2, maximum of 3 shuffles from my side.
Yeah, 5 was a different story,
Yeah.
especially when everyone was holding a bunch of cards. Then, like, you're reshuffling, like, frequently because the deck's small because there's 5 people holding cards out there. One of them
Yeah.
being a 9-year-old with more cards than he knows what to do with.
I am also a card hoarder, so I feel you there. One of the things I really want to talk about in this is how do you all feel, and I'm specifically pertaining to the Cascadia area that you add, where this was a 1 game only, this is something that happens right now and never again, versus the things that stay with the whole of the game. How did you two feel about...
I actually wanted to ask that question, like, in broader, but my question was, what do you miss the most? The prospecting, the treasure hunt, the circus train, or the timetable? Because I think those were all like the 4 funnest like mini games.
I think the timetable was the perfect amount of time.
Yeah,
that
to
it
two
existed in the
games,
game.
yeah.
Because it's just too much, and you would have done it all, and then this is lame.
we both completely finished our prospector cards.
You both completely finished it?
1 game, yep.
Oh wait, no, prospector cards. Okay, we did too. Our
No,
3
timetable. I got 50 points. Deanna got 20, but she almost got.
So we were 80, 90, and 50, I think, on our
All right, so let's talk about these things a little bit.
we should probably
again,
first.
we were banging through. Like we were just trying to get the game. Like
Okay, that definitely makes a difference.
Yeah.
So Cascadia, to answer your question, was the last zone we went to.
Really?
So that was the very last thing we did. And I liked it. Like, one game, like, so I think what you unlock, you don't.
We were Cascadia last too.
You play. I'm trying to remember how it works. I think you play the first 3 games without doing anything to the board, and
I
then
think
games 4 through 11 you unlock a zone. And game 12,
it's just
the
board
board
as it
is already
Yeah.
there. Right?
But they give you some interesting things about adding routes.
that's true.
before you
That's
start.
one thing I liked.
I like that too. I thought
Every
that was a really
game-
interesting way to start that game, like the draft of where you place routes before
Yeah,
you start. Like, that was
we did.
that was super
that
cool.
happened 3 games in a row for us.
It did. So for
Yeah.
like the last 3
Maybe-
games,
But it was
maybe-
less. No, but it was less.
it was 1
right?
route, and then it was 2 routes, and then it was 3
Okay.
routes.
Yep.
So
I see. I read the cards wrong, and we just did it once each time.
oh no, it was once,
Because the
twice.
last time it was bonkers.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I totally missed that.
And that's
Yeah.
what I was saying. By the end, you're playing more trains than you're playing in the. So in the finished product of the game, you play with 50 trains, and we were playing 56 trains in the last game. So the games were going longer because every game we were getting more trains. But the cool thing they did in the last 3 games was you could build a route for free without playing cards of up to length 4 anywhere on the board. And you did that, I think, in reverse player. I don't remember what the player order was, but you could just put them out there. And so you could look at your routes, and then you could just pre-plan and pop those out there. So in the last game, you could technically have 12 trains on the board before the game started. And that was a good way to counteract how long the games were getting at that point. Because
Yeah.
if you didn't have that, it's going to be even longer, right?
For sure. I think, so we started talking about the prospecting, but then we never finished it. So Cascadia, when you open that area, you get a card that's got like a scratch thing on it, and it gives you one central city that is up in that quadrant. And then essentially you get to cross off a gold nugget on your little card for each of the up to 5, right? Each of the 5 cities that you connected to, and then there's a variable amount of money that's tucked underneath of that. I loved the idea of this being a 1 game, hit it while you can, but all of us got all of ours, and I thought it was too easy to get them
Oh,
all.
I don't think not all of us got all of
We
ours.
got all of ours, but I had to work for it.
So I just feel like mine just happened naturally, and maybe that just happened because the routes I had were compatible. But I was just like, man, I didn't really have to stretch for this.
Jake,
and
you
I
gotta
got it.
remember that you and I are both like expert Ticket to Ride players too.
Fair.
Like I see my route cards and I'm like, oh, those are the ones.
Yep.
You know, so
That's fair.
like I've probably played Ticket to Ride 100 times. You know, so.
But I love the idea of hey, this is one game you can do this. Make it happen, or you miss out. What were some of your other favorite things? I really loved the circus. So if you built a 3 route or a 4 route, then you wait 3, 4, 5.
You got more trains. You got more circus cards for
stickers.
playing like a bigger route.
Yes, but it was a capped, or you got it had to be 3, right?
4, and 5, and there were no
Yeah.
6s on the board yet.
Yes.
When
And I went ham into that and just got
same, I got like
tons of
100
them.
points for my circus.
Yeah,
train.
me too.
So everybody gets a little circus card where you can fill out the circus trains, and they had to be the same color. And there's different lengths, and depending on how long you did the train, some of them are worth more points. And on the back of the thing, you could do any color.
But you got more points if they were yours. But one thing important on the inside of that, for each of those routes, like it would give you a train and the number of things on it, but they had to be different colors. So you were looking for specific colors to finish out those longer chains.
Oh,
And-
that's right. Those had to be different
And
colors.
I just leaned right in to the biggest ones right at the
Same.
start, and the 2 people I played it with didn't. They just like, oh, I'm not going to get enough of these, and did the small ones. So I probably gained 80 or 90 points on them.
I got the 3 largest of the
Me
trains.
too.
Yeah.
I think I did every one but one on the inside, and I still had like 15
See, I
points
think-
on my back or something.
I
Like it was
think-
crazy.
I didn't have any on my back because they give you different amounts based on how many, and you don't know how many circus trains are going to be.
You're right, and I loved that too.
yeah,
It
and
was
so like, do I have enough time to do this?
Yep.
Or
So honestly, at 2-player, that'd be the worst because at least at 3-player, we saw the 2-player cutoff,
Oh,
and we thought,
yeah.
we got to be running out of these.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
for you, it's just cold. That's
yeah,
it.
cold turkey, baby.
Yeah.
So here's a con I have, and it's a con for a lot of legacy games, and it's a major division between like serious gamers, gaming all the time people, and then maybe more casual gamers. They don't always look at, there's this circus, it's the new thing. You should, in Ticket to Ride and in most of these games, if there's something new that scores you points,
You
you
gotta
should
hit it.
probably do it. And if you don't do it, someone's going to monopolize it and crush you. So if you let someone take all of something, that's bad. In general.
Counterpoint, I gamed this way more than my wife did, and it was only like 100 points between the 2 of us,
Yeah,
which
but,
is 100 points.
yeah, I mean, we had a couple 100-point difference between first and last place in ours, and it just. And I guess the circus thing was also cool because it was like on a roll of tape, and you never knew it when it was going to end.
Yep.
But because we were playing 5 players, 2 players would have been scary because 2 players,
Yep, that's what we
you don't
said.
you don't get to see anything.
Guys, remember bubble tape? It kind of reminded me of bubble
At
tape.
least in your 3-player, you saw the
Yep,
2-player
yep.
line come. You're like, well, it's coming soon. For us, it's like, well, when is this thing ever going to end? So we didn't know. And you only get to see what color the next train
Yep.
is.
And I loved that it was random too. Like there were some that were back to back of the
I thought you could
colors,
always
and-
see what the next train after. Like you could see 2 trains in advance.
No,
right?
I think you could
Just
just see the
one.
one that's up.
I thought the one we pulled. I thought how we had it pulled. You could see the next train after the current
So
one. Maybe I'm wrong.
Florida was the first one we did, so that would have been like game 4, and I went so hard on that it was done by like middle of game 6 or maybe game 5.
Yeah, that's kind of where we were at
So,
too. We went ham on Florida.
So we're going to I'll throw a pro in here. I know we said that the game can be a lot, but a lot of these things, out of these 12 claim a route things you have to check, there's a lot of them that will
Phase out.
fizzle out. So you're probably not going to have all these things to worry about the whole time.
Our
So
ghost train never fizzled out. We had it the whole time.
let's talk about Ghost Train next. We also never had that. So the Ghost Train, you know, you were talking about the white player, the Baron, whoever here's on the back. Spoilers, that guy's dead, and we're all trying to like take over his
Is that
rail lines and
Thaddeus?
stuff.
Yeah, Thaddeus. He
I
gets
literally
murdered by Mama
never made-
O'Connell
I knew
immediately.
that, but
Yeah.
I did not think about him being the white color.
So Thaddeus Reeves, that Reeves Rails is the white train.
They thought the
Interesting.
robber was so important they epilogued him too, Cornelius.
Yeah. So the Ghost Train, you go out there in like the wasteland or whatever that
Yep.
box was, and every time you build a white track, you rolled this dice and you move the Ghost Train, and if he landed next to a route you'd built, you get a curse. And these curses did all kinds of crazy stuff, and they stuck with you, and you can't get rid of them until you discard 3 cards.
I think some of them are 4. I think I had one that was 4 train cards. Maybe
I
I'm wrong.
had some naughty ones. I had ones that I kept for
I
like
just
2
thought they
games.
were all
Like, I
a
don't
flat.
care.
I thought they were all just a flat.
I could be
thing.
wrong.
I
could
think
be
they
wrong.
were a flat 3.
Yeah, it's a flat 3.
But I didn't get all the curses, so who knows?
Yeah, and there's only so many of them, so sometimes they were all out on our table. Sometimes they were all out on the table at the same time.
Curses were basically non-existent in my game because all we did was wait until the very, very end to build all of those tracks, so it didn't happen to us. So there were 4 total curses, and that's because my mom had a postcard that when somebody rolled the die to give her a curse, she was able to give that person a curse.
Yeah, 2 times.
And so I got both of those. But my curses randomly were completely inconsequential to me, and I never got rid of them.
I was rolling through that thing every game. I'm not afraid of no ghost.
It was really fun though that you got big points for building those routes.
Yeah,
if
and
you're willing
I
to do
like
it.
I liked that it was like so in this one like they have like a little bit of a change on like Ticket to Ride tunnel rules. They had cards that had like little Maddocks on them, which all the locomotives do, and then like a third of the colored cards do. And you have to play all cards with like Maddock or pickaxes on them to bust through a tunnel. But then once you do, forever it's built as a route like the color that you played.
And then you get a flat. It ranged from like 3 up to 18 or something like that. I think.
You got paid for doing those mining tunnels.
Which is why I was always going through there, getting haunted by digging the tunnels.
And I guess we've glossed over it a little bit. As you build these new boards, there are no colored tracks on any of these new ones.
Yep.
So basically, you're allowed to build a new railroad track if both cities existed at the same time. So sometimes the train tracks would go off into nowhere because the next city was on a puzzle piece you hadn't discovered yet. But if the whole route was there, you could make that any color you want, and then you'd sticker it down. I mean, minor con, it made the game slow up a little bit because you kind of had to stop and sticker things, but you can kind of keep going as people are doing that. Also, if you're real anal retentive about how they go down there,
don't look at my board.
Don't look at my board either. And I'm normally somebody who struggles with that, but
I slapped him
I
on
just
there.
had to accept this wasn't going to look the way I wanted it to, and I just ran with it.
I made them look as good as I could.
Good for you.
I tried, but it was rough in some cases.
Oh man, mine looked like a dude who got punched in the mouth.
So yeah, I mean, that was, as I'm looking at the back of this claim a route thing, step 1 was building routes on track beds, which we just talked about. You could put the colors down. Building tunnels we talked about had to be all pickaxes, right? We've talked about company routes. That's starting the game. You get to do that.
And then that increases later in the game to make it.
Yeah, you get $2, and then you
it
get
turns into $4.
$4 later on in the game.
Oh, here's the casual caveat really quick. Oh, sorry, I'll come back to that. I didn't mean to. I dropped you.
Well, that's okay. I'm
Yeah.
just kind of rolling through these company towns. We really liked the company towns thing. Bo dug into it and built all of his. You essentially got to claim towns with your colored sticker
Yeah,
on
that's
it,
fun.
and then every time somebody built a route into your town, they had to pay you $1, which was kind of fun.
And I like that there's Mama O'Connell Town too, the villain of the game, because we just thought it was funny to say you gotta pay Mama, you gotta pay
Gotta
Mama.
pay the
now.
mama. Yep.
It's funny because in my game, the event that lets Mama O'Connell spread just never came up, and then in the last like 3 games, it was just like on infinite repeat.
Oh, yeah,
And
Oh,
it just
no.
kept spreading and spreading.
She
and
was
spreading
all
and
over the
spreading.
place on
but
our
she,
board.
for a while, it didn't affect us a whole lot.
Yeah.
And we unlocked Ghost Train early, and we never got rid of Ghost Train ever.
Yeah, we didn't get rid of it. It never went to rest.
We also, I think I might have messed something up with the robber. The robber also never went away. That was another one.
I caught him in game 11 or 12.
Did you catch him? And that's how he goes away, right?
Ooh. Oh, also,
Dead Man Gulch
if
gets
you find
punched
enough
enough.
gold in the gulch, then he gives up too.
Yeah,
So-
so this is what you're talking about earlier, where how did the robber?
If you play any locomotive, then you have to move it to a place that has at least one train connecting to it.
And everybody has to pay a coin.
For every route
Dead Man's
touching
Gulch.
that, yes, he's to pay to this pot that if the event comes up, then you pay 4 train cards and you split potentially the
Yeah.
amount of money that's on there.
Yeah.
This was unequivocally my least favorite part of this game. One, I played with a group that just was not about any kind of take that, and so then we often ignored it, and then we just forgot to move it because we always put it in a place that was gonna not harm anybody.
We barely did anything with it too because I had a card that let me ignore it, and in a 2-player game that just seemed unfair.
Yeah, I don't know. This was it really didn't add any interesting elements to me, and I just kind of wish this wouldn't have been a part of it. But I
Yeah.
get that other people like that more than I do, and so maybe it's something that they enjoyed.
In our 5-player game, we did it a lot, and we were all very mean about it. But like, it happens so often, it doesn't really matter.
And I think it's more fun in a 5-player game. Like this is my con for 2 players. Is postcards are way less fun, I think, than if you're like in a 5-player game where everybody's like secret about what they have. But I'm playing 2-player with a wife from Peru, and I'm like, just let me see yours. I'll tell you what you need to do.
Yeah.
And
I guess we haven't talked about postcards. So on the routes at the end of the game, you would punch any routes that you'd finished, and if you finished one, and some of them had like one punch, some of them had two punches. If you finished one that had any words on it that told you to go get a postcard, you go into the box and you go grab that postcard number. And normally that's like a thing for end game points or a special ability during the game. Or like, it was interesting because a lot of times you'd get them and there's like story elements on them. You can read them. And a lot of times I would get one and be like, what is this about? Because we don't know what this rule, I don't know what any of these words mean yet because we haven't unlocked this box yet.
What I thought was kind of lame, though, was like, I don't think it's lame that you can only get one postcard per game. But since you're punching the routes, I think you should at least be able to look at the two, like the ones you get and choose. But the game, I think, doesn't let you do that.
Nope. It says you pick one and then you discard all the rest.
Yeah. Yeah, the robber was fine. Like, the thing is, the thing that would come up and let us take the money off the card never came up at a time when, like, there was lots of money on it. So I think maybe someone did it one time, or, like, one time there was a bunch of money on it, and I think we all did it, so somebody didn't just, like, make a bank load of money. But, yeah, I would say the robber was kind of the weakest part for me as well. The next part was the Lost Treasure. That was in the Sierra Madre, and I really liked the Lost Treasure.
I did too. I went hard into that.
Basically, you could go, and I can't remember, there's a certain way that you get treasure maps.
So only if you build in the Sierra Madre region, you get the choice between drawing a treasure map from the top or hunting for treasure.
That's right.
And then when you hunt for treasure, you're going to flip over 10 cards, and for each one that has a skull on it or an event, because the events all have skulls on them, then you need to discard a unique letter treasure map to basically mitigate that skull. Yeah. And so at most, you could have 5 different lettered maps, and so then you needed to make it through the rest of those, and then if you did, you scratched off the furthest top left treasure bag, and then that's the amount of money that you
and you got a pretty
bucks.
Decent amount of money. And I think it was cool. If you failed, you got to like trade in like duplicate treasure maps, and you also got to keep treasure maps between games, which I liked. Which that's one thing the game did really well. Everyone gets a little box that they keep all their stuff in between games.
Yeah.
And at the end of the game, and whenever you would finish like a postcard that would score you points, you would put them in kind of your bank area, which you couldn't open. And then at the very end of the game, you open up that bank area and you kind of add up all your points and things that are in there, including, I guess, shares is the next thing on my list, which if you've ever played the Pennsylvania map, that's the only way you score points in that game is by getting shares of routes. And in this one, same thing. If you build a route of a color with the share that's up, you take that share. And then at the end of the game, you scored majorities on who had the most shares. And shares is one of the things that gets added into the final version of the Ticket to Ride Legacy game. You still play with those in the Eternal game, I'm going to call it, that you just keep playing after the fact.
I think including that in there was really smart. And honestly, that is probably the difference in me saying that I like this version better than some of the previous ones.
Yeah, it just pushed the game. It just, like, more than anything else, it gets you playing cards out of your hand. Getting, like, the other thing, too, is it makes you, like, a little bit less likely to totally count out the exact number of trains you need to do everything. Because sometimes, like, I think all of us tonight were like, I can go this way instead and, like, play a less optimal, like, trains out of my hand and, like, have to go searching again just so I can get this stock card. Because if I'm the one without stock cards, I'm going to get crushed.
Yeah, or I just throw, like, if there was a spot on the board that had, like, one colored one just for the stock, I may or may not even use that route, but I might just throw that one card away.
It was so sweet, too, when it was a big city that connected to it, because then you could use a card that you didn't even maybe want, and then you got the share, and you got to draw a card out of it.
Big cities are my favorite part of Ticket to Ride Legacy.
They're super cool.
They really keep the game moving. They keep your hand fresh, and, like, I like you get I don't remember how you got more on the game. Like, the winner get to keep adding big cities?
No, like, think second place plays the city at the end of every game. Big city.
Yeah. And then the winner gets to pick the new box you open up.
And then the last player removes the event and then gets the president who
gets
lets
the
you get an extra
president
turn
and the caboose. Who gets the caboose?
The last player. They get both.
So they get both. The president.
They get to be the first player, and they get to take one more turn at the end of the game.
Yeah.
We open next on the list is circus trains, which we already talked about, but we opened that probably like in the middle. Like
That
I think
was our
I think
first.
we did kind of all the Midwesty stuff, and then went back to Florida, and then we did the West Coast. Which next up would be Bridges, which is kind of in the Bay Area, and in this version of America, that area has kind of fallen into the ocean a little bit, and there's lots of bridges, and there's a lot of events that will break the bridges. But the bridges are cool because they incentivize you. You get $2 for every bridge symbol you cover, and
Yeah.
they're all gray, so you can build whatever you want. And the problem is, if any of your routes over there get busted, they don't count
So
towards
events come
the
up and
tickets.
say earthquake in X area, and then you need to lay all of your trains on your side.
Yep.
And then at the end of the game, you have to have a locomotive for each route you want to fix, or they don't count as you having completed that for your tickets.
Yep. So I really liked Bridges a lot. Those were cool.
Bridges.
And then you guys already talked about the timetable, but we can kind of explain what that is. Second to last game, you kind of get a little fold-out map, and it's basically a grid of rows and columns of cities, and they kind of match from west to east across the
Kinda.
country.
There's some weird wrinkles in there for
Yeah,
some
it's
of
like
your
it's like
things.
mostly together with some
Yes.
weird recalls,
Yeah, but-
which I thought was nice.
I like that too.
Yeah.
It made it interesting.
But
Yep.
mostly it's if you follow a route across the country, it's those cities. And
Yeah.
anyway, what you're trying to do in both those games, every time you do a route, if you connect a new city to a new city, you get to mark that off. And then you get, what, 10 bucks
points per column or row. Yep.
So, like, in our game, I only ended up getting, I was so close to getting more, but I only scored like 20 points off of it. And I think the best person scored 80 to 100
Yep.
somewhere
We had,
in there.
I think in my game, we had 2 people with 90 or 80, then one with 60 or so. So we were able to really kind of lean into that.
Yeah, and then the end of the game, you just added up all your points from all your games. You added up the majority of the shares. You added up your animal tickets. You added up. What else was there?
Stocks, or you said shares already. So timetable, circus,
Postcards that were in your
postcards.
Postcards.
Yeah.
That might have been it.
I think that was it. And they give you a nice little score sheet, which I kept in our box, so you can kind of see who did what. Yeah, man, I like because you don't really need to know that much. I would play this one again probably.
Pro spoiler. Spoiler pro. My wife caught Carmen Sandiego at the end, caught Mama O'Connell. And B, if you play Ticket to Ride Legacy again, they have alternate places where Mama O'Connell is hiding for like people to catch her without just being like, oh yeah, she's in the city that she's
Oh yeah,
in.
let's explain that too. I forget how that works,
Well,
but
just the final game. There's just like every time you complete a ticket, you can look at a clue card.
Once per turn. Yep.
Once per turn, and then they're like the clues together will give you an idea of where Mama's hiding, and then you can guess on your turn where she's at, and you get one guess, and if you're right, you get $40, and if you're wrong, you don't get to guess again.
yeah, that's crazy. It's kind of like a deduction type thing. Every card, like a card will say Mama is 4 spaces away from Oklahoma City.
Yeah,
And then the next one will say she's 2 spaces away from Ontario or something, and then
yep.
if you get all 3, there's only one spot on the whole board that kind of triggers that in there. But at
Right.
any time, you could just decide to guess. So you could take a flyer.
It was fun to add that little element to it. We read the rules wrong, and we thought we just had to build into that city, not declare it, and so nobody ended up being able to get those points. But it was still a cool little element that existed.
So I guess, final kind of con for me on a legacy game like this, I don't think you could really screw anything up too bad. But in legacy games, sometimes if you miss something, you can kind of miss an opportunity maybe. And I think we all maybe did 1 or 2 things like that at some point. It sounds like after talking to other people that have played the same legacy game. There is a pretty good spoiler-free FAQ, I think, on BGG. So if you're thinking about playing Ticket to Ride, maybe go out there and find that thread just to look at maybe common things to miss. I tend to do that on some legacy games just to make sure my experience is kind of the best it can be. I know I did that for King's Dilemma as well.
Yeah. Michael Rob's cat just did the most young cat move to Jake pretty much of all time.
You should describe that.
Yeah, so basically Jake's flipping one of his hoodie strings, and Michael just dove into like his chest and like it bonked him, and like realized that what he did looked really dumb and kind of backed off. So, yeah. Well, hey, listen. 3 boings. It was a great game. Boardways Bump.
Let's do it.
Baby, turn around. I wanna see that section.
Or dump. Tonight on the podcast, we are bumping and dumping Deal with the Devil from Czech Games Edition. Deal with the Devil was a 7.2, good for 4,184 on Board Game Geek.
Ay.
Campbell,
What's it now?
bump or dump?
What's its rating now? Not the spot.
Hold please. When we're missing Tim,
He normally handles all
things
this.
are hard.
I think we can also blame Tim for the adversity we faced in this episode.
It's true.
Bro.
Bruh.
All right, it is a 7.1 now.
So it went down. It's definitely a bump.
I think it's a bump, but I do think this is one of those weird games that could somehow be a dump too.
It is a bump. It is up to 3,022.
Yeah.
And that's just because, this is it is probably the most niche game we've ever played on
I
the
agree.
podcast.
I fully take back my comment last time I was saying Voidfall was the most niche because this is the most niche.
Have to have 4 players.
Yep.
It's
And,
so niche.
So weird.
I tried to get it played this week, and I wanted to get it played before. I'm playing all my games in my collection this year, and I was like, well, I might as well play the games before we do the bump and dump. But I couldn't get anybody to play it with me. It takes 4 people.
I'll play it with you when I come back to gaming.
I only tried the one night on a Tuesday, and it was a lighter load. It just didn't happen. But, it is probably still I don't know. What do we rate it, guys? What do you guys think you guys rated it?
I think I gave it a 1.5. And I think I'd give it a 2. And I think I'd give it a 1.5 now. I just feel like this is the game that more so than maybe any game I've ever played, if somebody just does stuff wrong, the game's ruined.
Man, we all gave it a 2.
Yeah, that was a bit of my guess.
I think it's I played it a couple more times since then. It's a 2.5 for me. I really think it's cool. It's neat. It's going to stay in my collection because there's nothing else like it.
There is nothing else like it.
And now that I've played it a few times, teaching it is way, it's not as intimidating as I thought it was going to be. Maybe it still is for new players, but
I guess, again, I just really struggle with the idea that just understanding something wrong can fundamentally change the game, because if you make a bad deal, that is a permanent boon for somebody and a permanent ruin.
Alchemist is the same way, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Alchemist is just way more replayable. I like Deal with the Devil.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
You think Deal with the Devil is more replayable than Alchemist?
No, I don't think it's less replayable, though.
No, I think Alchemist is super replayable, especially if you had King's Golem.
I really love Alchemist, but in reality, the deduction is pretty much the same every time.
That's why you got to add King's Golem. But also you start playing on the harder modes where you have to start making goofier leaps with your deduction.
That's true. I always think that game's more fun when people get stuff wrong
Yeah,
or bluff.
exactly.
But that game also requires a high level of play.
Yeah.
So
You think you're still a 2?
Deal with the Devil? Yeah.
So
I don't know, it's so cool for what it is, but
There is a lot to like about it, but again, I think that main thing for me is probably enough to bump it to a 1.5.
oh, it's not going down for me, but it's
played
not
again,
going
though.
up either.
good, because I need to play it.
I played again.
Yeah, I want to play it again.
Let me find our-
devil! Ow! Scary.
All right. Christopher Boat said he thinks it's a really clever game, but one of those that requires the same group. In the end, there's probably too much of an investment for someone who wants to keep playing new games. He'd support someone else giving this more boings, but for me, it's a 2. So same as us. He actually was one of the ones that didn't want to play it on Tuesday with me. He told me he thinks one play was enough. So I feel like I'm going to get that from a lot of people, which I think is the tough part about keeping a game like that, just in general.
You got me and Cam. I don't know that Tim would want to play it again.
I don't know either.
I could be speaking for him.
He might.
Jeremy Thoman, he's only played it once. He'd give it 1.5 boings. It is fine. I like the app and secret trading. I liked focusing on the upgrading your city part of the game versus figuring out who was who. Social deduction isn't really your jam. And I get that as well. I don't think the social deduction part of the game is actually that super important. Although I take that back, it kind of is. 4 or 6 points or whatever you get for nailing the devil is actually a huge deal in a game where you score
20
Exactly.
Right.
or negative 10.
So, all right. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of the Board Boys Podcast, Season 4, Episode 14. I was going to say Deal with the Devil. It was actually Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West. Go to theboardboys.com to find the link to our Patreon, to find the link to our Discord, to find the link to all our social medias. Come hang out with us, play board games with us on Board Game Arena. And if you'd like to donate, hit that Patreon link. We would much appreciate it.
Thank our sponsors.
Better do that, dude.
I'd like to thank our patrons, Hammond Buckland, BJ from Board Game Gumbo, Shifty Teeth, Jeff Gray, Andre Bosch, Braden Dowdy, Rob Cooper, Richard Lane, Matt Kelly, and Jeremy Thoman.
Well, this is Uncle Cam signing off saying we hope you like board games because Rob didn't.
We hope you like board games.
Well, you were supposed to say what I say.
Boing, boing, boing.
That's right.
Trailer for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. Ain't got no cigarettes, but 2 hours of pushing broom buys a 8 by 12 4-bit room. I'm a man of means by no means, king of the road. 3rd boxcar, midnight train, destination Bangor, Maine. Oh, worn out suit and shoes. I don't pay no union dues. I smoke old stogies I have found, short but not too big around. I'm a man of means by no means, king of the road. I know every engineer on every train, all of the children and all of their names, and every handout in every town, and every lock that ain't locked when no one's around. I sing trailers for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. Ain't got no cigarettes, but 2 hours of pushing broom buys a 8 by 12 4-bit room. I'm a man of means by no means, king of the road. Trailers for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. I ain't got no cigarettes, but 2 hours of pushing.